G'day, Rowan Ellis here, Equity Solar Brokers. In this episode of the Solar Lovers Pod, we'll be exploring a comment received on our video about the solar buyback rates. You should see it captioned on your screen. And what that comment says is, people, look into what Australia is about to do with energy buyback. They are going to start charging people instead of paying people for the power going back into the grid. And of course, this is a really common question that gets asked. I've come up against it many times, and it's a great question. And there's a fair reason for us to look at Australia and go, well, what's happening over there? Is it going to happen in New Zealand? And so I think the answer really to the question is, can New Zealand be compared to Australia? Have we got a similar power grid and similar challenges? See, in Australia, they've got a challenge right now where there's too much solar. The government subsidised it, and almost every roof has solar, and there's just too much of it, right? In New Zealand, we've got the opposite problem. We don't have enough power, and more particularly, we don't have enough power during the commercial hours. Hence why we've seen factories and sawmills and all of those sorts of businesses either pausing operations or completely going out of business. So New Zealand can't be compared to Australia. It's very different. The other thing as well is, in Australia, if you have too much power in the grid from renewables, the coal plants really suffer, right? There used to be about 34 of them. Now there's roughly 16, I believe. And so those coal power plants are going, well, hell, we've got coal in the burner. It's worth something to us. And all of a sudden Australia doesn't need our coal power? That's terrible from a business perspective, right? If you're a coal power station and you're wasting coal, holy snap. The other thing as well is they're quite labor intensive. So there's a lot of people, a lot of jobs relying on the coal sector. And so if coal power is not required during the day, that can really interrupt the economics of the business, and the business all of a sudden appears a lot less viable. And so there's pressure from the government. On one hand, they're saying we need more renewables. On the other hand, they're saying let's not upset these coal stations too much, because at the end of the day, if those coal stations close the business, shut the doors, stop burning coal tomorrow, Australia it'd be in the shit, right? Because they need those coal power stations, because coal is the baseline power in Australia, or it has been, right? And it will continue to be baseline for quite some time. The argument can be said that New Zealand has baseline power as well that's coal, but the reality is that coal has always been a peaker support, which means that when New Zealand didn't have enough power from existing renewables, such as hydro, such as wind, and the very small amount of solar, they would at that time turn on the coal power plant to manage the peak demand, as well as turning off people's hot water cylinders and making people wake up to cold showers, etc. So New Zealand's very different to Australia. Our base load is hydro, not coal power stations. And so if a hydro plant can't sort of, empty its water through its turbines during the day, then, well, they're half government owned. It's not a huge concern. It's not a major concern. So yeah, it's just different. New Zealand is totally different. And so because of the nature of our energy landscape, we haven't got coal power stations who are going to absolute panic if they can't be the base load during the day. We don't have those. In my view, and it's totally my biased view, but it is my view that solar will retain its value when it's sold to the grid by consumers and by businesses. There may come a time where it's no longer valuable, but I do believe that's going to be quite a long way into the future, most likely after everyone right now have reaped the benefit. So it could be 10, 15, maybe 20 years away. But in saying that, at that point, we may have a whole bunch of battery storage, right? Whether that's lithium, whether that's pumped hydro, or whether that's looking at our hydro lakes as battery storage themselves. The grid's going to change a lot. But as we've heard, the name passes me, but I've seen the governor or the whatever we call him in Australia saying it's going to get harder before it gets easier, or going to get worse before it gets better. And unfortunately, that is the reality. But we've got to look after our planet, right? We have to look after our planet. We have to decrease those carbon emissions. And heck, if we can power all of our electric appliances and lawnmowers and tractors and everything else with sunshine, why the heck aren't we doing that, right? Because one day coal will eventually run out, oil will run out, but the sun, it's multiple billions of years away. And the great news is, against common views, solar panels are totally recyclable. Maybe not all of it, but most of it, right? And that's true for lithium-ion batteries as well, LFPs, that sort of thing. So go and have a look. Bit of homework for you. Type in Li-cycle. Go and check that out. They've got a great lithium recycling closed loop solution. And so, 10, 20, 30 years from now, we're going to be able to recycle our lithium, recycle most of our solar panels. It's going to be really cheap. We've got great installers in New Zealand, but everyone's going to get more efficient, faster at doing it. And so the price of solar is going to keep coming down. So those are some of our totally biased opinions. Thank you for your comments on the ad, and hope you have a great day, weekend, whatever it is for you. Cheers. I'm Rowan from Equity Solar Brokers, and if you want the best deal on solar, you want to stay anonymous, and you want solar companies basically quoting the best that they can for your job, residential or commercial, get in touch and we'll see how we can help. Cheers.